All right, so we're just after 7 o'clock, so I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us for our June meeting. Some upcoming events we have. Our July, we're going to have Natalie Pittore from the NSA come give a talk on some of the initiatives she and the NSA Cyber Collaboration Center are doing with the private sector. We'll also have another meeting in August on Tuesday, the 16th. We don't yet have a topic. And tonight's event is a military spouse panel, which is a topic that's very near and dear to my heart. I myself am a military spouse of an active duty Army warrant officer. And when I joined WiCyS, I noticed that there really wasn't representation for our community, and I really wanted to change that. So I'm super excited to have three spouses here, Ashley, Gloria, and Jessica, who will be sharing their story of how they got started in cybersecurity. So I guess we'll start with some introductions. If you could give a brief introduction of yourself, and we'll start with Ashley.
Hi, thank you so much for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Ashley Williams. Have been a military spouse for about 7 years. I met my husband while in college down at Virginia Commonwealth University. And during this time, we moved around a lot. He's in the US Army, so active duty military spouse. And I have 2 kids, and we're at Fort Gordon in Augusta, Georgia right now.
I can go next. That is okay. I'm super happy to be here. Thanks for having me as well. My name is Jessica Sjule, and my husband is active duty Army. He works with Air Defense Artillery. He is actually also prior service Navy, long time ago before I met him. So he actually re-enlisted in the military in 2020. So I have only been a military spouse for about 2 years now, but my dad is retired Army as well. So I kind of have been a military brat my whole life. Very different perspective from the military spouse side and the Army child side, I would say. We are currently stationed at Fort Stewart here in Georgia. And we're both originally from Texas. We met about 6 years ago, playing on an adult soccer team together. And we have one daughter together who is 3, and he has a daughter from a previous marriage who is 13. So thanks for having me.
He just finished Wobeck, Wobeck right now. So that's super exciting. He worked for the NSA. He's also in cybersecurity, so he's moving to the offensive side. We just got back from Korea, where I had 2 beautiful girls there. And yeah, so that's me.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank you so much for volunteering your time tonight. We really appreciate it. I guess we'll start with, how did you get interested in cybersecurity, or what made you choose cybersecurity as a field to get into? And for this question, we'll start with Jessica.
Awesome. So I have a bit of a different background. I did a complete career switch from the field of education. I used to be a teacher and a coach, and I did not teach anything technology related. I didn't teach any type of like computer classes or anything. I actually taught Spanish. And at some points, I also taught ESL and exploratory languages. But in 2019, I decided that I really could not continue with the teaching career. I just really was struggling with the institution itself. And then I was having a really difficult time with the work-home life balance, and just disagreeing with a lot of the policies and red tape and everything that just kind of come along with it. at the time I was working at a K through 12 public charter school, and we worked on a blended platform. So basically we were heavy usage on technology. All of my curriculum, everything, I developed all of it around technology. I really got into like gamification. So, you know, throughout my lessons, I would try to incorporate different types of ways to kind of include gamification within the curriculum. And when I was thinking about a career switch, I was looking for several things. I really wanted something, one, that was going to really challenge me, because a long time ago, I put myself in a box and decided that I was not the science, math, technical type. I decided that that was not my strength. I actually, for a long time, really felt like it was a huge weakness of mine. And I just stuck to like the arts, language, literature, those types of things. I wanted something that was going to make me step outside of that box and really make me feel challenged and fulfilled. I also was really looking for an area that was going to be a little bit more lucrative than the teaching profession. I was working close to 100-hour weeks, and I was still struggling to pay bills. And that just was not a life that I wanted to continue to live. And so I started kind of exploring different areas, and I got really interested in cybersecurity. I had already had such a heavy influence like from technology within teaching. And what I found whenever I started like really digging into the field was there was this amazing group of people within this field that were just so passionate, so willing to mentor, so willing to give their time and their advice for free, and just so happy to talk with me and to kind of help guide me. And so that really kind of solidified for me that this was like the path that I wanted to take. And ever since I've gotten into the field, you know, the more that I learned, the more passionate and excited about it that I become.
How about you, Ashley?
Well, actually, it all started my senior year of college. It was kind of winding down to the end of the year, and my professor actually reached out to me, and he said, "Hey, have you ever thought about cybersecurity? You probably would be a good fit because my background was Homeland Security, Emergency Preparedness." And I was like, I never thought of it. When I thought of computer science, I thought of a lot of, you know, the stereotypical, a lot of math and technical things and coding, and it being such a male dominated field. I really didn't think someone like me would be able to fit in. And I was completely wrong. So going back to what my professor was saying, he was saying, yeah, we kind of sponsor students to go to DEF CON. We have limited funding, but it will help with at least half of it. And I was like, well, you have to at least pay for 100% of it. I'm a struggling college kid here, transitioning out into the real world. So I didn't take that opportunity, but that conversation really did stick with me. And once I moved to Fort Hood and got married to my husband, and just seeing the scarcity of jobs, I looked into MICA, and it's a grant program for military spouses depending on the rank of the soldier. And I was like, well, let me find something just to dip my toe and see what works. And one of the things that they kind of pushed was, you know, getting your teacher certification and other things like that. And that conversation with my professor stuck with me. So I decided to test out cybersecurity, and I loved it. It was something that kept me on my toes. It was easier to learn, depending on what field you want it to be in cybersecurity. It's not all about code, but it can be, but it doesn't have to be. So that's how I started.
Well, I got started with my husband. So I initially wanted to be a nurse. I was going for the nursing degree, and as I was in there, I realized, you know, the blood and all that kind of stuff just it wasn't for me. So I wanted something that, you know, you can continuously learn and, you know, just help people and, you know, be there. And when my husband started talking about cyber, I was like, okay, so I changed my major. I graduated with a bachelor's in cybersecurity policy and management, May of last year. And then I applied for the Sands Women's Immersion Academy, where I got the 3 certifications, GX certifications, and that's where I met Jessica. But ultimately, it was my husband. I love being able to talk with him. How he comes home and talks about his work, and we can help each other out. Like, hey, how do you do this, or actually understand what they're going through. So it was really a good thing, and I'm super excited to start my journey and see where our ventures lead us. Eventually, we're going to try to open up our own little cybersecurity business here in Augusta. So I'm super excited for that too.
Wow, that's so amazing. I feel like all those responses really must resonate with everybody here, because I think most of us are like just super passionate about it, or got interested somehow, and just really just had the curiosity to reach out and go from there. So that leads to like directly into our next question. So let's start with Ashley for this one. So Ashley, how did you land your first role? Like, how did you get started?
Well, long story short, it all started with a post on LinkedIn. I started networking really heavy. I got my master's in cybersecurity. I transitioned into another job that allowed me to get my security clearance, but it wasn't cybersecurity related. So I started networking, and it just started off with just a post about a book I read. And I connected with somebody from Deloitte, and he was my internal advocate. He made sure not only was he a reference for me, but he made sure that the hiring managers were looking at my resume, and I was like, all I need is just 10 minutes of somebody's time. And that's how I got started. It was just through networking and showing that I'm heavily invested in cybersecurity, and I want to get my foot in the door.
My journey started from actually Sands, where I met some phenomenal women. One person in particular, Catherine, she was starting at KPMG, and she asked me if I wanted the opportunity. Well, I wasn't really looking for a job at the time, because I had a whole plan of what I was going to do. I was going to go for a DoD scholarship. I was going to, pursue my master's. And I was like, hey, if they tell me no, they tell me no. I wasn't really looking anyways. But all it takes is that one person that's willing to take a chance on you, and if you're so passionate about something, and you really want to learn about the field, then they see that passion, and they'll take that chance on you. So that's ultimately how I got started with my first job as a penetration tester for KPMG. So.
All right, I'm going to try hard not to be super long-winded about my story. Getting my own role, or my first role, sorry. Basically, for roughly nearly 2 years after I quit the teaching profession. I mean, obviously, I don't know if you guys picked up on the timeline, but I quit at the end of 2019. And when I was ready to go back into the job field, it was March of 2020. And I had my daughter, who was just barely a year old. And I was like, what am I supposed to do? I can't get her into a daycare. Nobody's hiring. Like, the whole world has changed. So for about a year and a half, kind of while my husband was transitioning back into the military, and we were kind of like living very transiently, I was doing some self-study. And I think I self-studied the same thing for that entire year and a half. I was just studying for my Sec Plus. And finally, whenever we settled here at our first duty station, I was like, okay, like, you really need to get it together. I've always been the type, I grew up military family, so I've always been the type, like, you have to have a plan. And so I just really started to realize that I needed to leverage what I had available to me. And one of those big things was the fact that I was a military spouse. Like, I knew that there were resources out there. And so I started really like digging and searching for resources that would kind of help me on this pathway. And I got in contact with Hire Heroes. I had a really great mentor that completely revamped my resume. It was amazing, did a phenomenal job. And then also linked me up with Onward to Opportunity. So I ended up, after self-studying for like a year and a half, I ended up finally getting my Sec Plus within like the next 3 months after that. Then it kind of snowballed. I was accepted into the Sands Women's Immersion Academy, which was an amazing opportunity where I met Gloria amazing group of women, just a tremendous opportunity and just really accelerated growth. And that was last year. And right before I was accepted, I had been applying to as many positions as I could. I was really like anxious and weary about it. You know, I had seen a lot of, you know, posts on various like social media sites and LinkedIn and stuff about how difficult it was to get into the field. And so like I had a whole system. I was like tracking it on an Excel spreadsheet, and somehow I don't even think that I had my Security Plus on my resume whenever I was reached out to, but I was reached out to by a tech startup in out of California called Abnormal Security. That was just having tremendous growth, and it was a position for a security analyst. And I went through their 4-interview process and managed to secure the role, and I was super excited. So I started working there full time, and it was kind of a lower level security analyst position, primarily focused on email security. So I wasn't, you know, going in as deep as I wanted to, but it felt like an amazing entry level position, especially because I was I didn't want to kind of go through the IT help desk route, which I know is often advice that you will get. And I just wanted to kind of steer clear of that because that's just not really where my passion lies. And so I was very fortunate to do that. And my husband and I got married in 2020, but we had our wedding in 2021. So I was planning a wedding, doing the SANS Immersion Academy, working full time, had my daughter. So yeah, it was a really hectic time. But recently, within the last 3 or 4 months, I actually got a tremendous promotion at Abnormal Security, my current company. And so I made a lateral move. Yeah, so it's very exciting. A lateral move. And now I am a cyber defense analyst. So just much more in depth and, you know, much more involved with kind of like our internal security. And yeah, that's how I ended up getting that role.
That's awesome. Congrats on your promotion.
Thank you.
So I think for me, at least, when I looked into the field or when I wanted to get started in cyber, I was really overwhelmed, and it kind of seemed like the field was huge, and it is. So what advice do you guys have for someone who's looking to make a career change or who wants to get started but doesn't really know where to start?
So I would say just there is lots and lots of resources out there. I know that doing a lot of self-study will help you get prepared, but there's also like getting your toe, like for me, penetration testing, like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me or Over the Wire, those types of things, just to see if you're like interested in that type of field would be very beneficial. And I also know that Heath Adams is a great teacher. He has a Zero to Hero course on YouTube that's completely free. And it takes you from 0 point all the way to, you know, a penetration tester. He also has the PMPT, but I would say, you know, just keep your head up, you know, keep trying. I was a stay-at-home mom like for 3 years. And if you just keep persistent, and, you know, I believe that if anybody has something that they want to do in their mind, as long as you keep pushing and working towards that goal, you can achieve and be anything that you want to be. You just have to have that like get that you know, to keep going and keep pushing forward, you know. So
I'll kind of piggyback off what Gloria was saying, because I definitely resonate with a lot of the things that she's bringing up, especially when it comes to kind of like that grit and the fact, you know, that the field really can be so overwhelming. I remember whenever I was first starting, I was just falling down rabbit holes every single day. It was like I could not figure out exactly how to stay on one specific pathway. And so I was really struggling with actually learning you know, material in a way that was going to be the way that I was going to be able to retain it, because I just got so excited about so many different things. I actually remember about 1.5 years ago, I had a moment of just like complete, like so overwhelmed, just so kind of distraught. And I made a post on, I think I posted it on Facebook, and it was just like, kind of like a cry for help on one of the support pages that I had been involved in, not support pages, but just, cyber related pages that I had been involved in. And I got like such a tremendous response, people just being very encouraging. I just had stated, that I was feeling very discouraged, feeling very overwhelmed, like wasn't exactly sure what I was doing, wasn't sure if this was the right path. And the reason that I bring that up is because it wasn't but 6 months later, and I was fully in the field. I was getting I was in the SANS Academy. I was getting my certifications, and it was just a complete turnaround. And it really, truly, I mean, when you think about it, sometimes when we have a perspective from where we are right now, 6 months can seem like a long time, a year can seem like a long time. But when you look at it from the big picture, I mean, that really was nothing at all. That was such a small, portion of time in comparison to what I gained from it. And so what I would really recommend, or the advice that I would give is don't be afraid to kind of be vulnerable in those moments and to reach out for help, because this is a field where there are so many amazing people who are so encouraging and so helpful. I did, a ton of networking. I really utilized like Discord and stuff like that to really get involved with as many people as I could. I reached out to people on LinkedIn and asked if they would be willing just to chat with me. And I had quite a few people that were willing just to have a 30-minute chat and talk to me about their journey. And then another big piece of advice is kind of what I, had mentioned earlier, is to really leverage like what you have available to you. Like as women, there are a variety of resources that we can tap into that are kind of helping us level the playing field in a field that is so male dominated. And as military spouses as well, like that's something else that you can really leverage to utilize. And there are so many free resources out there. It blows my mind. I have 2 degrees in completely unrelated fields, international relations and Spanish. And I am still paying student loan debt. Every single certification that I have earned, I have not paid anything for. All of the training that I have received, I have not paid anything for. So not only am I in a field that has proved to be tremendously more lucrative than what I was previously doing, it also practically cost me nothing other than my determination and my willingness to go out and find these resources. So anytime I see people, and I'm not trying to knock like any type of paid training, but anytime I see people asking for advice about paid training, I always try to encourage them to leverage what they have available for them for free resources first. Because for us personally, finances were an issue. And I was really concerned about being able to afford getting into the field. And I did not want to go back and get another degree and rack up more student loan debt. So, really leveraging that. And like Gloria was saying, like just really having that grit and that resilience, and realizing that it's okay to be overwhelmed. It's okay to have those moments. I went back and posted recently, I think within the last 6 months, just on the same page, and said, I just want to update, like, this is all the things that have happened to me. And even then, I mean, the response that I got then was even more than before. And it was just so many people felt inspired by my story and like reached out and wanted guidance. And to me, like that is really a big part of who I am and why I do anything and why I want to do anything is that is a huge motivator to me. I've realized I love helping people, and I realized not long enough ago, unfortunately, that the best way that you can is to really try to, lead through your own example and really try to be an inspiration to others.
Very well said.
Yeah. The advice that I would give to somebody is, take the time to invest in yourself, and it's not monetary. When I got pregnant with my son, I pretty much instantly knew I wanted to take that time to be a stay-at-home mother. And similar to Gloria, I took off maybe about 3.5 years from the workforce. And that was probably the best thing I could have done for my career at the time. I not only was invested in my family and had our daughter later on too, within that 3-year gap, but I was also invested into cybersecurity. It was like another child that I was nurturing at that time. And coming out of it, I don't think if I had that downtime to really focus on, cybersecurity, learning the basics, networking, and then also learning what area of cybersecurity that I love, which is cloud security, I would not be a cloud security engineer today. So take the time, invest in yourself, get into the community. It's okay to fail. Everybody probably on this panel has failed more than once, but you get back up and then you lean on your community to help you through that too as well.
And I did want to say that sometimes I should probably take my own advice. But if you ever find yourself in, say you land a job and you feel like you're not supposed to be here, like I know many people probably have that same feeling, but I when I speak to my husband about it, and he's like, well, if you're ever the smartest person in the room, then you need to find another job. He says, because you have to constantly learn, and they know what they got into when they hired you, So if you're ever, the smartest person, you need to get out of that room and find you another job, because you need to better yourself. Don't just stay in one spot if you're not learning anything in this field, at least, because that's what cybersecurity is all about. If you don't continuously learn, then you're going to lose it eventually. So
That's amazing. You guys all have such like fantastic advice. I hope folks are taking notes for some of these takeaways, because it's so good to hear some of these things, and I know they resonate with me a little bit. Shout out quickly to all the consulting ladies. I'm at Accenture. I heard KPMG and I heard Deloitte. So like fantastic. One of the things I like about consulting is that you never do the same thing twice. You're always going around to do things and doing new things, which is fantastic for not being the smartest person in the room, which I think is so true as well. So Ashley, let me start with you, because I know you mentioned earlier too, and actually all of you guys have mentioned, what were the particular resources that helped you guys get by? And if you guys in the audience don't write this down, don't worry, we'll be sending an email afterwards with links to all of these resources that these lovely ladies talk about. So don't worry if you can't get everything straight away.
Oh my goodness, I have a list. Well, initially when I started my cybersecurity journey, I used MICA, my CAA. I pretty much ran to that because depending on the rank of your military spouse, you're no longer qualified after a while. So that was something that I wanted to run and do immediately. Another thing that I leaned on was hiring our heroes, and that support group was instrumental because at Fort Bliss, we were new to the area, and that kind of allowed me to get grounded and create those connections that I needed. And then onward opportunity for my Sec Plus certification. And besides that, I relied on LinkedIn to not only network, but to also get information as well. Jason Blanchard, he's a part of Black Hills Security, and he has a great resume in job hunting, YouTube videos. He initially had a Twitch account for 2 years during COVID and helped almost 200 people get new jobs during this pandemic. So he's a great resource. Podcasts, whenever you have kids around, you can just put your headphones on and it's just like a crash course. You're hearing people give out knowledge on how to get into this field. And then I would turn around and connect with those people on LinkedIn and send a quick note, and everybody's pretty receptive. So those were the main things. YouTube University, Twitter University, like there's so many free content out there that you can get your hands on. What was it? Free code boot camp, I think they have like 10-hour courses on YouTube. Just so many other resources, but you don't need to have money initially. You can learn as you go, as long as you have a laptop or iPhone or smartphone, whatever you have, use it and get into this.
I would also like to piggyback off that social media. There's so many resources on social media, like Twitter is a good place to learn, follow all the cybersecurity professionals. I also follow Heath Adams on Discord. Like I mentioned before, he's really, really good. He's a really good learner, and he's a good person to reach out to too. But he also has that course. I know OffSec has some courses, but those you have to pay for. But there's Code Academy that offers free things, and e-learning, and those are most of the ones that I've taken besides SANS. Try to get those like apply for those scholarships. As far as the Women's Immersion Academy, that was very challenging, but it was very rewarding too. And it has a lot of information in so short amount of time. But I think I learned more from those 3 courses than I did my whole 4-year degree. So it's really well worth it.
I can definitely attest to that as well. What Gloria is saying about the Immersion Academy, I definitely learned so much more than I maybe did in anything else that I've ever done over the course of my life. And it was challenging, but because it was so challenging, it was also very rewarding. And as you're going along in the process, I mean, you have a lot of moments where, you know, you really feel like it is so much, and especially depending on what you have going on in your personal life, it is a lot. But you know, the group of people, you know, the cohort that I was in specifically was extremely supportive. I'm sure Gloria can attest to that as well. You know, we really tried to be involved and tried to encourage each other, and I found that to be like a tremendous resource. Also, the SANS has opened up, I believe, at least one other immersion academy now that's a diversity immersion academy. So, you know, there's always that option if that is, you know, something that you could fit into, if, you know, if the opportunity for the Women's Immersion Academy is, you know, not available, or you unfortunately are not able to make it. And I know we're talking about resources, but I just want to touch on even applying for these academies in the first place. I really hesitated to apply for the Immersion Academy because like I said, you know, a long time ago, I had put myself in this box, and it took me a long time to really relearn that, or really to teach myself that I could do anything, and that I needed to overcome that obstacle that I had created for myself, and I needed to take a chance on myself. And I never thought in a million years that I would get accepted into this Immersion Academy. I thought it was such a long shot. It is very competitive. You know, tons of people apply. And next thing I knew, I was on the final interview, and I was telling my husband, like, I think I have a chance. Like, I think I might get this. And that was really what I needed, you know, to kind of, you know, start the momentum and to really get myself in that mindset where I realized that I was very capable, you know, despite my past, despite, you know, my past experience, despite the fact that I'm coming from a separate field, despite all of my prior education, like I am, you know, smart enough, you know, capable enough, determined enough to accomplish things that I set my mind to. Outside of the Immersion Academy, the other resources that I really utilized were, you know, Ashley had mentioned Hire Heroes, Onward to Opportunity I utilized for my Sec Plus. Military One Source provides a variety of resources as well. And I believe I went through them to kind of get connected with Hire Heroes and Onward to Opportunity, but they also provide, I think it's either 6 months or a year of LinkedIn Premium, which I found to be very useful as well. And then, you know, really just, you know, utilizing networking as a resource, just because you can get so much useful information. And the more people that you talk to, you know, they also have resources that they're aware of that they can, you know, kind of like link you into. And so people in themselves can be a tremendous resource as well.
I would also like to add Salesforce. They have a really strong military program. If you follow their learning paths, you get a free certification voucher and also a voucher for a retake, just in case. So that can also be another area that you can get into. And they do have cyber related projects, especially with consulting with Salesforce platform.
Awesome. Those are some amazing resources. And like Liz said, we'll follow up with a PowerPoint with links to all of these for you guys. So if you miss some of them, we'll have them ready for you. Being the military affiliate, we would be remiss if we didn't discuss some of the challenges that we face in military life. You know, we can make a plan, but oftentimes the Army or the Navy says, nope, well, you've got a different plan. So what are some challenges that you guys have faced and how have you overcome them? And we'll start with Gloria.
This is a very difficult question. There is a lot of challenges. I know that we were stationed in Korea for a while, and they wouldn't let us leave. It was when COVID happened, and it was, they wouldn't let us leave. So that was really, really challenging. I honestly think my mother-in-law had to contact the general to get us to leave. But just staying, sticking with family and, having each other's back and, talking, communication. That's usually how I get through all of my challenges. We're going through the military. Yeah, that's pretty difficult question to ask. Just, just gotta believe in yourself. Just believe that you can do it, and you can overcome anything you set your mind to, really.
Yeah, that's a good piece of advice there, Gloria. I mean, the list is long, but there's some good and bad with it. I think one of the biggest challenges, especially with military spouses, is the unemployment rate. It's just our lifestyle is very complex, and we are here to support our military servicemen and women. And there's sometimes that we do have to put our careers on the back burner. But I think the way to overcome it is that was the main reason why I got into cyber, is the flexibility. Having access to remote jobs does make it easier. But with that said, always moving from one duty station to the other, the lack of childcare. Sometimes the military spouse is responsible for that. So right now we moved to Fort Gordon last August. I've had my daughter on several daycare lists since May of 2021, and we're still toughing it out. So a lot of meetings, I'll just say, hey, you got 20 minutes on the iPad, be in the background, I'm working, and we just make it work. But I would not be able to do that if it wasn't for the level of flexibility that cyber allows in having 100% remote lifestyle when it comes to working.
I totally agree with that. Like, I stick my girls up in their playroom upstairs. I'm like,
Exactly.
hey, y'all, I'm in a meeting. I'll be back in 30 minutes. Y'all play upstairs. Don't come out the room. Like, completely agree. The remote jobs is I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity within the cyber field. I'm beyond, blessed and for this, and it's been awesome. It's been really great. Like, being able to stay at home with your kids, you never miss that moment. If you're sick, who cares? You can go downstairs or whatever and hop on the computer. You don't have to take a sick day, or the commute back and forth to work. It just saves a lot of time that you're able to invest in your family. I completely agree with the flexibility on the remote jobs, 100%.
Yeah, absolutely. My position is 100% remote, and my daughter does go to daycare. But it was a year-long wait to get her into a daycare, and it's very challenging, that especially because you don't always have a lot of options afforded to you. And although the field is flexible, like the first position that I worked at my current company was a very fast-paced position, and it was not really designed in a way where I was able to take care of a toddler while, having optimal performance at work. And so on those days where my daughter was sick or she had to stay home, I did find myself very frustrated because, unfortunately, there is kind of an expectation that the spouse, is the one that will maintain that responsibility. Is very difficult. My husband, they they don't let my husband stay home with, my kid because they're sick, they have an expectation that I will do that. And so, that was a big challenge. But one of the things that really helped in kind of combating that is the company that I ended up working for. I feel fortunate to be able to work for a company that has such amazing values that my current company does have. They have been extremely flexible, extremely understanding. And that's something that I don't think we have kind of touched on. And I don't know about, the others here, their experience, but I have found that just companies in general, tech companies, cybersecurity related companies, they seem to have a little bit different of a mindset in the way that they approach their employees and like home work-life balance. And I have just found that, not just with my current company, but with other companies as well, that, because we have the opportunity to work fully remote, there is a lot of flexibility. And, with my current role, my hours are extremely flexible. There's no micromanagement. It's basically like, we trust you to get the job done and get the job done. And that's that. And so I think that really taking the time to find a company that, has those values and that will support you, because in those moments, because as military spouses, I mean, there's a tremendous amount of sacrifice and so many challenges that you face along the way. Right now I'm talking to my job to make sure if we PCS to Germany that I can still work. And so, that's one of the things, having to relocate, and also not really knowing when, or knowing, how, or until the last minute can be a challenge as well. So just, working for a company that really, understands that and really values you as a human being, rather than just an employee. I think that that's really important and, can be a tremendous asset as a military spouse.
Jessica, you're like softballing these questions right to me. My next question actually for you all, and I hear like remote work all the time. I'm fully remote right now too, with an occasional client on site, but for right now, mostly almost 100% remote. So being military spouses, right, you have a unique set of challenges that you have to overcome, like moving unexpectedly or having to take care of the kids. So what can companies do better to support you, right? And you just answered a little bit of that for us, but Gloria and Ashley, like, would also love to hear like your perspectives. Besides remote work, like what can companies do to help support military spouses?
I would say like being lenient. I know that moms, well, personally, my two daughters, they're 2 and 3, and they have like a lot of care, and if you can't find that daycare, just having the flexibility of hours, like, hey, instead of your typical 9 to 5, hey, can I work maybe, 3 to 10 or 11, just having that, flexibility of hours would be very, very helpful. Of course, the remote work, but if the ability to move, since we do transfer duty station to duty station, like, hey, can I take my work with me? Like Jessica said, like she might be going to Germany. I spoke to my company about having to move to Maryland, and they were like, yeah, 100% go. It might not be, you might not get that pay increase because it's more expensive in Maryland, but yeah, we don't mind. We have a place for you there. And I was like, awesome, perfect. But just having that, flexibility with the hours, and maybe even helping, provide some assistance for daycare if, that's possible, having that, extra funding for daycare or something, because daycare is expensive, especially with more than one child. It can get up there, so that's also would be a good option.
I believe companies definitely, just to touch back on flexibility, remote. If we have to PCS, it's not because we want to. Sometimes it's really up to the military. So having that flexibility to make sure that we can maintain employment would be awesome. And that if we are in the office and we have to move, either be assigned to an office closer by or have that remote flexibility would be great. Support groups internally within the company. Deloitte has an awesome military spouse initiative group. And one of the things that they did do when we PCS is that they reached out to me just to see how it's going. You know, if I need any help, how I am with maintaining hours and making sure that I'm still employed and then I have that flexibility. It creates that loyalty with employees that we want to stay, and that if you give us an opportunity to work, we will work. Military spouses are some of the hardest working people I have come into contact with. We can pack up a house and then still clock in the same day. So flexibility, make us feel welcome, and we'll do the work for you. Oh, and training, because a lot of times we do have that gap of being a full-time parent. It'd be nice if there's more transition programs, just so that we don't have to always have to explain that gap. Hey, I moved to Germany. I took off during that time. You know, for them to understand that would be great.
Yeah, because mostly it's the Army's way or there's no way.
Yeah.
So you don't really get a choice of what you want to do or how you do it. You just go along with the flow. Like, okay, we're moving to Maryland, or we're going to Germany in a couple weeks. Like, we don't ever really know. So it's their way or no way.
Awesome. That's so true. So we'll wrap it up with one last question before we open it up to the audience for some questions. So, what is one piece of advice you guys would give to your younger selves? We'll start with Jessica.
Honestly, I mean, it's kind of the same thing that I have reiterated and hope to continue to reiterate, because I just hope that you know, other people can hear this and realize that it's really important not to sell yourself short. It's very important to give yourself that opportunity to become, you know, what it is that you truly want to be, not what you have always believed yourself to be or others have believed you to be, you know, and just, you know, if I could talk to my younger self and give myself the best piece of advice, is just to, you know, live my life for me, and to take chances and to be brave and not to be afraid of things that are different or that may seem overwhelming, or just maybe things that, you know, that I've never done before, or that, you know, I didn't think that I had the aptitude for, because, you know, you really will end up surprising yourself, you know, if you give yourself that chance. And I think that everybody, you know, don't count yourself out. You know, there's plenty of people in this world that are doing that, you know, for you. So don't be that person as well. You know, make sure you're giving yourself that opportunity to really flourish and thrive, and just do something that you truly love.
I would say you have to make yourself happy before you make other people happy. And if you stay motivated and believe in yourself, then you can accomplish anything you set your mind to. Yeah, growing up, tried to make others happy before you made yourself happy. And how can you do that if you're not happy yourself? So you have to be happy to bounce it off to others. So that would be mine.
Well, my piece of advice I would give to my younger self is don't be afraid to fail. I think we put so much stress on, you know, teenagers, and especially girls and young women, to always strive for perfection. And in doing so, we're afraid to try in the hopes of, you know, not failing. So I would say, don't be afraid to fail. If you fail, you know, go outside. The world is still spinning. It's okay. But at least at the end of the day, you can live with yourself because you tried. So, and you know, in my journey to cyber, some of my biggest failures became my biggest breakthroughs. I didn't pass my Sec Plus the first time, and I paid out of pocket. And then I went to Onward Opportunity, and not only was I able to pass the second time, it just opened the doors to a whole world of resources that I did not know I had access to. So don't be afraid to fail. Just keep on trying.
And take that failure as a learning
Learning lesson.
opportunity.
Mhm.
You learn from your mistakes. So if you fail, just you'll know what you did wrong and what not to do the next time. So it's not, don't look at it as a failure. Look at it as a learning opportunity that you learn from
Exactly.
that.
I think that's really big too. Like I feel like, you know, we really as human beings, like we put a tremendous amount of pressure on ourselves, you know, with kind of the thought process that failure is such a negative thing when it doesn't have to be a negative thing. You know, failure is definitely an opportunity to learn, and really a lot of times, you know, I personally find that if I really like step back and look at what I failed at, it's not the end of the world like I think it is. You know, like Ashley said, the world is still spinning. You know, you still have other opportunities, and you know, you can really utilize those moments to have that momentum like Ashley was able to get with you know, doing the Sec Plus a second time. And so I think that's really great.
You guys have such amazing advice for your younger selves. That's I think like so much of what you guys are saying. I think we've heard so much, right? I think it's very common to have these ideas and thoughts, and it's so nice to hear them reinforced, right? To know that like you're not the only one thinking these things, or you're not the only one feeling these things, and how amazing is it that we have this amazing community of military spouses and military folks here that you can connect with and just sort of have some of clue, right, of like what you're going through and where you've been. So I think we have a couple questions. So the first one that came in, and this is from a perspective of women in general, and it says, considering the challenges that women specifically face, what solutions can attract women to cybersecurity?
I think it's necessary to start young. Going into elementary schools and middle schools. Growing up, they separated the boys and the girls at my middle school in science and math in hopes that girls felt more comfortable asking the tough questions and gaining their voice. So I think that definitely did resonate with me, because being in such a male dominated field, I'm more comfortable asking questions in meetings and interacting in a way. It has taken time, but just I think the best piece of advice is to start young so that girls know that they can get into this field and that we need more representation of females.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, especially coming from the perspective of being a prior teacher. You know, I think that it's really important that educators and parents, even, you know, as you're raising your kids, to make sure that you know, that everybody is treated like an individual, not necessarily based on a stereotype or bias. Because what ends up happening is a lot of people, you know, they just don't know any better. Like we have a tendency to be very conditioned to kind of fit into our mold. And, you know, I think it's important that, you know, that teachers, you know, pretty much anybody who is, you know, serving as a mentor or is, you know, in somebody's life and in that type of role, you know, to make sure that, you know, we're always encouraging people to really pursue, you know, what they have a passion in, you know, whether it's, you know, the typical for that gender or you know, or whether it's not. Like I think it's important to keep that openness.
And this might not be related to the question at all, but I just wanted to say, don't be afraid to ask for help. If you have a question on something, especially in this field, you have to ask for help. If you don't, then you'll probably be a long time till you can figure out the answer to that. There's a lot of research that can be done, but if you just need help, don't be afraid to reach out to somebody, whether it's somebody you work with or a friend or somebody on LinkedIn or however, don't be afraid to reach out. There's plenty of people that are willing to help and willing to, you know, answer your questions that you may have regarding anything really. So.
Awesome. Well, it looks like we have a few minutes left. So if anybody has any questions, like don't be shy, feel free to raise your hand or drop a question in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them.
I did see that Callie had a question in the chat. I hope I'm saying that right, Callie. I think it's sort of similar to the other question that was asked. It was around what deterrents caused low female representation, which I think we touched on a little bit, and then what solutions can attract them to the field, which I also think you guys kind of touched on in your answers. So were there any other questions maybe out there? Feel free to come off mute and talk to us.
And just remember, there's no such thing as a stupid question. So if
Yeah,
you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Because chances are somebody might have that same exact question, but not really want to ask it. So
I can kind of add something too to that question or those two questions as well. Just as like a piece of advice that I feel is very solid that I wish I would have taken a long time ago as well is, that this can be a very intimidating field, and the fact that it is male dominated. Oftentimes I'm in a meeting and I'm the only female there, and I do find that I struggle to get the respect that I deserve for my position. And I can't say that it's specifically because of my gender or not, but that tends to be the way that it is. And so, remember that you can invest in yourself in other ways that are not just purely academic. I have, looked for a lot of resources to kind of help prop myself up and prepare myself for those situations to ensure that, I don't become, just part of the background, that I am able to hold my own and maintain my presence and feel comfortable and confident in that, to ensure that, I'm standing out in the way that I want to. And, there are a lot of different resources that you can tap into. There's a tons of different books you can read or podcasts that you can listen to that really touch on this subject and offer a lot of sound advice about how to handle those situations and, how to present yourself in those situations as well.
And I would just piggyback off of that. There has been studies shown that, I know whenever I did my interview, this may seem silly, but if you just put your hands on your hips and you go in the mirror and you tell yourself that you can do this and that you are a superstar, that you will rock it, it boosts your confidence level up like way high. And ultimately it's gives you like the confidence that you can, succeed and thrive. Just Superman pose in the mirror, like, you got this. I did that for every one of my certifications. I did that for every one of my jobs. Yeah, and ultimately it gave me really high boost, and I succeeded. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I joke
Alright.
around at work when I'm in a meeting. I'm like, yeah, I have a meeting with my leadership. I'm going to go to my Superman pose real quick. They think I'm kidding, but I'm not really kidding.
It's a real thing. It really works, actually. It was in a book I read. If you do that,
Yeah.
they call it the power pose. If you
Power pose.
you feel more confident. You feel more confident.
Yeah. That was the answer I was looking for, a power pose, but I call it Superman on the Superman pose.
I know we're at time. We have 2 more questions in the chat. I don't know, ladies, would you be willing to stick around for just a second to answer them?
Yeah,
Sure.
that's fine.
Great. So the first one is from Mary Gray, who says she's currently working on her Salesforce cert and Google cert, and enjoys the class-like online setting. Are there any more resources like this focused on cybersecurity or others you would recommend to supplement?
Oh, so
So I am currently taking the PMPT, and I know I mentioned this a lot of times, but I am a strong believer in Heath Adams. He does an amazing, a really phenomenal job, and it's an online course, and it's a go at your own pace, and you get a lifelong voucher for it, and it's not expensive as a lot of places are, but I would definitely recommend those. I haven't taken the ones that you're currently taking, but his are phenomenal. So
Yeah, I don't have necessarily like a specific cert that comes to mind, but like as far as like online on-demand learning, you know, that is kind of how the SANS academies are set up as well. It's a classroom setting, but you're watching pre-recordings and you have, you know, labs and other resources that you utilize. And I know that there are a lot out there that are kind of set up like that, which I find, you know, especially as a mom and a military spouse, that those are the best ones to pursue because it does allow you to go at your own pace. And it does allow you to spend more time on areas maybe that you're struggling with and less time on areas that you know, are maybe retaining very quickly. I also, I know it's not like a formal education class type thing, but Udemy, and I don't know if that's how you
Yeah.
pronounce it, but I utilize them as well. A lot of times they have, you know, like really cheap courses. I did a Network Plus course with Mike Myers that I thought was excellent, just because I wanted to have that foundation because you know, I skipped the A+ network. I didn't do the trifecta. I just went straight to Sec Plus, but I knew that I needed to have that knowledge in order to be successful. And then even just like finding like people like Professor Messer on YouTube.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
he's amazing.
yes, and the amazing thing about those things is like you can listen to them, you know, as you go or with whatever else you're doing. You can really multitask and be able to, you know, absorb that material at the same time. So it's very convenient to have those options.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're willing to pay a little bit out of pocket, I love A Cloud Guru because it gives you an opportunity to play with those tools, especially GCP and AWS and Azure. And in conjunction with that, you can actually say, "Hey, I spun up something. This is the process that I went through," and it makes it easier to have that conversation when you are interviewing. Andrew Brown from Exam Pro, he has a couple of courses on YouTube and they're awesome. They're like 10, 12 hours that are cloud-based videos if you're studying for certifications, and just to kind of give you a basic frameworks of those different type of cloud platforms on a high level. So those would be my recommendations.
I think Coursera is another one that offers like similar type of learning. I know that those are unfortunately not things that you can really like put on your resume as like a certification, but they are definitely skills that you can build that you can, you know, utilize to kind of promote yourself as well.
Yep.
All right, it looks like Callie also had a question in the chat. If you guys could design an app to help women, military spouses, or active duty get into cyber, what are some key points that would be useful?
I would say the resources that we have available, companies that are military spouse friendly, a lot of times will have their own division for hiring, and just learning how to navigate that, reaching out to those individuals directly to get that internal advocate. It makes it easier to get through the hiring process. And then also what communities that you can tap into, whether it's, women in cybersecurity, the military chapter, Armored Opportunities, Hiring Our Heroes, Society of Military Spouses in STEM. There's Cyber Jitsu. There's so many other resources that you can tap into that you can reach out to these people, get mentorship. Veterati is also a great resource too. I think that's what I would put on that platform if I could create an app.
Yeah, I really agree with Ashley. I think being able to have like a centralized place with all of these resources available, you know, could be tremendous. Yeah, I know we're all capable of going out and finding this information, but sometimes, you know, it can be extremely overwhelming and we all need that help and that little push, and being able to have access to those kind of in like a one-stop shop, you know, is going to open up so many more opportunities for people who may, you know, find it too overwhelming to really kind of dig deep for these resources. And then the community is a huge thing as well. And then also, I think, you know, providing, you know, that level of support for, you know, other women in the field, and using it kind of as a hub for people to really, you know, bounce ideas off each other and seek support, you know, with some of the challenges that we're all going to inevitably face, you know, within the field.
To give good motivation
Yeah.
for when you're stuck. You always have that person you can reach out to, or people, whoever, to reach out to, just to give some motivational speeches, or, you know, like, hey, need help with this, or have that imposter syndrome, like I'm not good enough kind of thing. And like, no, you are good enough. You will do this. Keep going. You got this. Like a personal trainer for cybersecurity, you know, for women.
Yeah, I agree too, because I definitely had imposter syndrome my first week being in a cyber related job. And one of the biggest things was during a meeting, we were troubleshooting something, and then somebody opened up Google to search for the answer. So I was like, this whole time I'm over here scared, and people are using Google. So, you know, get into it. It's okay.
Google is your best friend in
Yes,
cybersecurity.
it is.
For every single thing, Google
Yep.
is your friend. But yeah, no, I think I have imposter syndrome every day when I get to work and all the big ups are talking about something. I'm like, oh my gosh, what is this? I just stay
Typing in the
quiet.
background.
Yeah. I'm like, let me go Google that real quick and see if I can come with an answer. But yeah,
I'm a short
definitely.
scribbling stuff on the side whenever I'm and you know, really imposter syndrome is very real. You know, I struggle with imposter syndrome a lot myself. And, you know, I find that I feel better and more comfortable within that when I hear other people talk about it, you know. So I think that's a big thing. It's important that we're talking about these things with each other because a lot of times you don't realize that you're facing something that everybody around you is facing, you know, even people that have been in the field for a long time. You know, my boss sat down and had a conversation with me when I talked to him about doing like a cert that was offered, that was just kind of like a recap on like basic cybersecurity principles. And I was like, well, you know, I just want to make sure I don't have any holes or gaps. And he was like, Jessica, you have imposter syndrome going on and everybody gets it. And I've been in the field for, you know, decades and I have it too, but you're fine and you don't need to take a cert that you're well past. So yeah, so it is real. And I think it's important to talk about those things.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, I think that's it for questions. So unless anyone has anything else that's last minute, we'll call it a night. But I can't thank you three enough for volunteering your time to talk to everyone tonight. I really, really appreciate it. This was awesome. And it was super inspiring for me to hear your stories. So thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
Really
And thanks
great.
everyone who attended for coming to hear these like powerful, amazing ladies and their stories. Just getting the word out about how amazing military spouses are and how much work you guys do is just phenomenal. I'm so happy that we had the opportunity to talk to you guys and that people had the opportunity to come. And hopefully more people will look at this recording and get inspired to say, I can do that too, you know?
Yeah, like I said, I was a stay-at-home mom, and before that I came from banking and restaurant business. I mean, if you want it, you can do it. Don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. You can look, I'm sure either all of these girls, look us up on LinkedIn or whatever, reach out if y'all have any questions or need help with anything. I'm more than happy to help anywhere, any way I can. So
Yeah, I was gonna say, don't be afraid to try to connect with me on LinkedIn or anything, or to reach out and ask any additional questions. And thank you to everybody here. I'm not even sure who all is watching, but thanks for, you know, preparing to hear what we have to say and to hear about our stories.
of course.
Cool. Well, I hope you all have a good night and please join us for our meeting in July.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.